everyone. Today we're going to explore a chilling concept, psychopathy. Psychopathy is often depicted in movies as a sinister, cold-blooded killer. But in reality, psychopaths can blend into society, and their behaviors may not be as obvious as we think. We'll go over 5 key behaviors that might indicate someone is a psychopath. One of the most significant and unmistakable traits of a psychopath is their complete lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's a fundamental part of being human, allowing us to connect with others on an emotional level and act with consideration for their well-being. However, a psychopath is devoid of this natural ability. Their emotional detachment means they do not understand the pain, fear, or joy of others in a way that most of us do. To them, the emotions of others are irrelevant or simply tools to be used for personal gain. This lack of empathy is not just a lack of compassion, it's a deep intrinsic void in their emotional makeup. A psychopath might witness someone crying, yet they won't feel sympathy, sadness, or even curiosity about the cause of that emotion. Instead, they may see the person's vulnerability as an opportunity to exploit. They may mimic the correct emotional response, understanding it as a social norm, but it's all a performance. This can make them incredibly dangerous because they can lie, manipulate, or even harm someone without feeling the emotional weight of their actions. A common misconception is that people with no empathy are cold and distant. In reality, many psychopaths can be charming and seem engaging on the surface. They might display what appears to be care and concern, but it is always a mask. Underneath the surface, there is no true emotional connection. Their interactions are often calculated, designed to advance their own agenda or to extract some benefit from the people around them. For example, a psychopath might show sympathy when they see someone in distress, but this sympathy is usually temporary and self-serving, perhaps to gain trust or to make the person feel indebted to them. They do not genuinely feel the emotional weight of the situation. In more extreme cases, this lack of empathy can manifest as cruelty or callousness. Psychopaths may engage in behaviors that cause harm, either emotionally or physically, without the slightest sense of guilt. They might bully, manipulate, or even harm others, often with no clear motive other than to see what they can get away with. They don't see people as individuals with thoughts, feelings, and rights, but as obstacles or tools to be used in the pursuit of their own desires. It's this absence of empathy that makes their actions so dangerous because they are fully capable of inflicting harm without any emotional consequences weighing on their conscience. Their lack of empathy extends beyond individuals to groups and even broader social concerns. They don't feel the moral obligation to contribute to society or behave in ways that promote collective well-being. They might exploit others for financial gain, lie, cheat, or break the law, and never give it a second thought. In their worldview, there is no right or wrong. There is only what benefits them and what doesn't. This is why the lack of empathy is one of the defining characteristics of psychopathy. It directly influences how they interact with the world and others around them. In relationships, this lack of empathy can be devastating. A psychopath might feign affection or love in order to manipulate a partner, using their feelings to control or get something from them. They may even deceive the people closest to them, making them believe that they are loved and cared for, when in fact the psychopath only sees them as an object to be used. When the relationship no longer serves the psychopath's purpose, they may discard the person without hesitation, showing no remorse for the pain they've caused. This emotional callousness is what distinguishes them from others who might feel guilty or conflicted when causing harm, even unintentionally. In sum, a psychopath's lack of empathy is profound. It shapes their actions and their interactions with others, making them incapable of forming genuine, caring relationships. They can mimic emotional responses, but they cannot truly experience the emotions that would lead most people to act with kindness or remorse. This coldness allows them to manipulate and harm others without the moral or emotional constraints that most of us have. Psychopaths are often able to disguise their true nature with an uncanny ability to charm and manipulate others. Their superficial charm is one of the most dangerous traits they possess, as it enables them to blend into society and build relationships with ease, all while hiding their malicious intent. At first glance, a psychopath might appear charming, engaging, and even magnetic. They have an innate ability to make people feel special, valued, and understood, drawing others in with their charisma. This is a calculated performance, designed to create a favorable impression and win trust. The psychopath's charm is not about genuine warmth or affection, it is all about control. The superficial charm of a psychopath allows them to quickly establish rapport with others, whether it be in personal relationships, professional settings, or casual encounters. They are often exceptionally skilled at reading people, identifying their desires, weaknesses, and emotional needs. They use this knowledge to tailor their behavior and words, making others feel as though they are the center of attention. This ability to mirror emotions and needs is often mistaken for true empathy, but it is a mere technique to manipulate others into feeling comfortable and open. They know exactly what to say and when to say it, providing reassurance, compliments, and attentiveness at the right moment to disarm their target. What makes this charm so effective is that it appears sincere. Unlike someone who may come across as overly scripted or insincere, a psychopath is able to maintain an air of spontaneity and excitement in their interactions. They are masters at making the people around them feel good about themselves, often through flattery, humor, or undivided attention. This makes it hard for others to detect their true motives. People enjoy the attention and validation they receive from a psychopath, and as a result, they may let their guard down, thinking that they've found someone trustworthy or even special. However, the charm is only skin deep, and it masks a darker agenda. The psychopath's goal is not to form a genuine reciprocal relationship. Instead, they are constantly assessing how to use the person they've charmed for their own benefit. This could involve gaining financial advantage, securing personal power, or manipulating the other person into doing their bidding. Once the psychopath achieves what they want from the relationship, they are quick to discard the person or begin the cycle of manipulation again with a new target. The charm becomes a tool, not an expression of genuine interest or care. The superficial charm can be particularly dangerous because it can make a psychopath seem trustworthy and even likable. They can easily get close to individuals, companies, or social groups, earning their confidence and becoming indispensable. In the workplace, for example, a psychopath may climb the corporate ladder not through skill or hard work, but by charming those in positions of power, exploiting relationships, and undermining colleagues. They may ingratiate themselves with others by pretending to share similar values or goals, only to manipulate situations to their own advantage once they've earned enough trust. In personal relationships, the charm can be equally insidious. A psychopath might charm someone into a romantic relationship, portraying themselves as the perfect partner, attentive, caring, and loving, until they've gained enough emotional investment from the other person. Once they have the power and trust of their partner, they may start manipulating them, making demands, or slowly eroding their sense of self-worth. The victim, confused by the sudden shift in behavior, may feel unable to break free due to the intense emotional bond the psychopath has cultivated. This superficial charm can be so convincing that even trained professionals, such as psychologists or therapists, can be deceived, especially early on in their interactions with the psychopath. In some cases, the charm may even be perceived as a sign of vulnerability or charisma, rather than the manipulative tool it truly is. Because this charm doesn't rely on emotional sincerity, it is incredibly adaptable and can be used in a variety of situations and contexts to manipulate and control others without them even realizing it. The key to understanding the superficial charm of a psychopath is recognizing that it's not a reflection of their true character, but rather a calculated tactic. It is part of their larger strategy to manipulate and control the people around them for their own gain. While it can be initially disarming and even endearing, it is ultimately a facade that hides their deeper, more dangerous intentions. Behind the smile and the carefully crafted persona lies an individual who is only interested in using others as tools to satisfy their own desires. Chronic lying is another hallmark trait of a psychopath, and it's not just an occasional slip of the tongue or a harmless exaggeration. For a psychopath, lying is a constant, almost instinctual behavior that they use as a tool to control situations, manipulate people, and maintain power. What sets the psychopath's lies apart from those of an average person is their lack of any internal conflict or hesitation. A psychopath will lie effortlessly and without remorse, even when the lie serves no immediate benefit. They see deception as an essential part of their existence, something that enables them to bend reality to their will and avoid consequences. To a psychopath, lying is not about protecting someone else's feelings or covering up a mistake. It's about manipulating the world around them to meet their needs. This constant dishonesty creates an environment where trust is continually broken and relationships are built on shaky foundations. A psychopath may tell elaborate, convincing lies about their past, their feelings, or their intentions. These lies are often woven into the narrative they want others to believe about them, allowing them to create a carefully crafted image of themselves that serves their purposes. They might claim achievements they didn't accomplish, fabricate stories of hardship to gain sympathy, or distort facts to make themselves appear more successful or likable. The lies can be so convincing that even those who have known them for a long time may struggle to discern the truth. The psychopath's ability to fabricate an entire alternate reality is what makes their lying so dangerous. People get drawn into these false narratives, believing that they are dealing with an honest, trustworthy individual, when in reality they are being manipulated. The psychopath's lies often serve a specific agenda, and they will continue lying even when they're caught. Most people, when confronted with their dishonesty, will feel some level of guilt or embarrassment. They may attempt to apologize or offer an explanation, but a psychopath will show no such signs of remorse. Instead, they will either deny the truth, try to twist the narrative to suit their needs, or simply ignore the accusation altogether. They are not interested in repairing the trust they've broken. They only care about maintaining control and avoiding the consequences of their actions. In this way, the lies continue, each one building upon the last, until the truth becomes so obscured that even the victim may begin to doubt their own perceptions. In relationships, the chronic lying of a psychopath can be particularly destructive. They may tell their partner what they want to hear, inventing stories to keep the relationship on their terms. A psychopath might lie about their feelings to keep the other person emotionally invested, or they might lie about their intentions to avoid responsibility for their actions. If confronted with their lies, they might respond with outrage or indifference, accusing the other person of being paranoid or irrational. This causes confusion and self-doubt as the victim starts to question whether they are overreacting or misinterpreting the situation. The sheer audacity of the lies, combined with the lack of remorse, can leave the victim feeling powerless, as if they are fighting an invisible enemy. Furthermore, a psychopath's lying is not limited to their personal life. They are just as likely to lie in professional settings. In the workplace, they may fabricate achievements, exaggerate their contributions to projects, or take credit for the work of others. Their ability to lie with such confidence allows them to manipulate colleagues and supervisors into believing their false claims, often at the expense of those who are genuinely doing the hard work. A psychopath may even lie about their skills or qualifications, securing positions or promotions they are not truly qualified for, all while deceiving others into thinking they are the ideal candidate. When the lies eventually start to unravel, the psychopath may either manipulate the situation to cover up their deception or move on to the next opportunity, leaving a trail of broken trust behind them. The underlying purpose of these constant lies is not just to deceive or confuse others, but to maintain a sense of superiority and control. Psychopaths are always assessing the situation and using deceit as a way to manipulate people into doing their bidding. The more they lie, the more they can shape the world around them according to their desires. This pattern of dishonesty is not a temporary behavior, it is a core part of their personality. They lie because it works for them. It allows them to gain power, avoid consequences, and stay one step ahead of anyone who might threaten their carefully constructed facade. In many ways, the chronic lying of a psychopath is a weapon, one that they wield with cold precision. It enables them to weave a narrative that keeps others off balance, constantly questioning what is real and what is not. It's this constant deception that makes it so difficult to trust a psychopath, as they have created a world where the truth is always elusive and shifting. Their lies are not just a reflection of a momentary desire to avoid detection. They are part of a larger, more insidious pattern of behavior that defines their interactions with others. The chronic lying of a psychopath isn't just a habit, it's an integral part of who they are, one that enables them to manipulate and control the people around them with ease. The absence of guilt or remorse is perhaps one of the most unsettling and defining characteristics of a psychopath. Most individuals, when they cause harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally, experience some form of emotional discomfort. This might manifest as guilt, shame, or regret, feelings that signal an awareness of having crossed moral or ethical boundaries. For a psychopath, however, these emotions are absent, or at best, superficial. They are incapable of feeling genuine remorse for their actions, no matter how damaging or harmful those actions may be to others. This lack of emotional consequence allows a psychopath to hurt people without any psychological barrier or hesitation. When a psychopath hurts someone, they are often unmoved by the distress or pain they've caused. They do not feel sorry for their victim, nor are they troubled by the effect their actions have on others. In fact, they may be indifferent to the suffering of others, or even take pleasure in it. For a psychopath, the idea of doing something wrong doesn't evoke feelings of guilt or moral conflict. Instead, they view the world through a lens of pragmatism and self-interest, where actions are judged only by their ability to help them achieve their goals, not by their moral implications. This emotional detachment means that when they cause harm, it is simply a means to an end, no more significant than any other action they take to further their objectives. In situations where a psychopath is confronted with the harm they've caused, their reaction is typically one of either denial or justification. They may deny any wrongdoing, deflecting blame onto others, or manipulating the situation to make themselves appear as the victim. They may twist the facts, or present a version of events where their actions are seen as justified, or even necessary. In some cases, they may use charm or persuasion to make others feel as if they are the ones overreacting. If guilt is somehow expressed, it is often in a shallow performative manner, aimed at manipulating the other person into forgiving them or reducing the consequences they might face. These hollow apologies are not based on true remorse, but rather on a desire to maintain control or avoid punishment. This lack of guilt or remorse can also extend to the way psychopaths treat those closest to them. In personal relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, a psychopath may hurt their partner, friend, or family member without a second thought. They may lie, cheat, manipulate, or even abuse, all while showing no signs of guilt. For example, a psychopath in a romantic relationship may deceive their partner, betray their trust, or exploit their feelings, all while continuing to act as though everything is normal. If confronted, they may gaslight their partner, making them question whether their feelings of hurt are valid or accusing them of being overly sensitive. The psychopath's emotional detachment from their actions makes it incredibly difficult for the victim to understand the lack of remorse, leading to confusion and emotional turmoil. In the workplace, this lack of remorse can have equally damaging effects. A psychopath may undermine colleagues, take credit for their work, or sabotage others to climb the corporate ladder. When confronted with their unethical behavior, they show no guilt or regret. Instead, they may lie to cover up their actions, or twist the situation to paint themselves in a more favorable light. Their emotional detachment allows them to operate with a sense of indifference toward the consequences of their actions, leaving others to pick up the pieces after they've moved on to the next scheme. They may even revel in the chaos they cause, seeing it as a natural byproduct of their cunning. The inability to feel guilt or remorse also contributes to the psychopath's ability to continue their harmful behaviors without fear of reprisal or self-reflection. Most people, when they do something wrong, will reflect on their actions, feel remorse, and attempt to make amends. This internal moral compass helps prevent most individuals from becoming repeat offenders. A psychopath, however, does not experience this kind of emotional regulation. They have no internal mechanism to stop themselves from hurting others. In fact, they may not even recognize their actions as wrong, or they may view any negative consequences as something to be avoided, rather than something to feel guilty about. This lack of emotional regulation makes them particularly dangerous because they can continue their manipulative, deceitful, or harmful behaviors indefinitely, without any internal checks to slow them down. Moreover, a psychopath's lack of guilt can make them seem like a tough or resilient individual to those who may not recognize the true nature of their behavior. In some cases, this emotional detachment can even be perceived as a strength, allowing the psychopath to stay focused on their goals and maintain a level of emotional control that others might admire. However, this is a dangerous illusion. The absence of guilt or remorse is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of a profound emotional and moral disconnect. Psychopaths have no concern for the welfare of others, and no capacity for the kind of empathy or ethical reflection that guides the behavior of most people. Their lack of remorse means that they will do whatever it takes to achieve their goals, regardless of the cost to those around them. Ultimately, the absence of guilt or remorse is one of the core factors that makes psychopaths so harmful. It enables them to engage in harmful behaviors without hesitation, to manipulate and deceive without conscience, and to continue their destructive actions without any internal conflict. This emotional emptiness is what allows them to maintain their facade of normalcy, even as they leave a trail of damage in their wake. Without guilt or remorse, they can act with impunity, knowing that they will never be burdened by the moral consequences of their actions. Manipulation is perhaps the most insidious and pervasive tool in a psychopath's arsenal. Unlike other forms of deceit, which might rely on overt lies or exaggerated truths, manipulation is a subtle and calculated process that involves influencing others to get what they want without them realizing they're being used. For a psychopath, manipulation is not a one-off tactic, but a core component of their personality and behavior. They manipulate situations and people around them with precision, often for their own benefit, without a second thought about the consequences for others. What makes this behavior particularly dangerous is that it can be difficult to detect, especially because the psychopath's actions often appear harmless, even helpful on the surface. Psychopaths are extremely skilled at reading people. They have an uncanny ability to understand what others want or need, and they exploit this knowledge to manipulate them into fulfilling their desires. They can often sense someone's weaknesses or vulnerabilities and will subtly exploit these to their advantage. This might include making someone feel guilty for not helping them, playing on their insecurities, or flattering them in such a way that they feel indebted. A psychopath's charm plays a significant role here, as it disarms people and makes them more susceptible to manipulation. The manipulation often feels like a natural, even positive interaction at first. Psychopaths have a talent for convincing others that they are acting out of kindness or with the best interests of others at heart. One of the most common methods of manipulation used by psychopaths is gaslighting. This psychological manipulation involves distorting reality, making someone question their own perceptions, memories, or sanity. A psychopath might deny things they've said or done, even when confronted with evidence. They will twist facts and use psychological tactics to make the other person doubt their version of events. For example, a psychopath might tell a victim that they never said something hurtful, even when they clearly did. Over time, this causes the victim to become confused and increasingly unsure of their own judgment, making them more dependent on the psychopath's version of reality. This gradual erosion of self-confidence leaves the victim vulnerable to further manipulation as they begin to rely on the psychopath to define their sense of truth. In romantic relationships, manipulation is especially dangerous because it can be used to establish total control over the other person. A psychopath might start by initially showering their partner with affection and attention, creating an intense emotional bond that makes the partner feel special and wanted. Once they have gained the person's trust and emotional investment, they begin to manipulate them into doing things for the psychopath's benefit. This could involve isolating the partner from their friends or family, making them feel dependent on the psychopath for emotional support or validation. The psychopath may use guilt to control the other person, accusing them of not caring enough or not being supportive enough, even when the partner is doing their best. Through this emotional manipulation, the psychopath makes the other person feel as though they are always falling short, slowly eroding their sense of self-worth and making them more likely to comply with the psychopath's demands. In the workplace, manipulation is equally effective, as psychopaths often thrive in environments where power dynamics and personal ambition play significant roles. They can manipulate colleagues and superiors into believing they are hardworking, dedicated, or valuable to the organization. They might take credit for others' work, subtly undermine those who stand in their way, or use charm to influence key decision-makers. Psychopaths understand the power of perception and will go to great lengths to craft an image that serves their interests. They may manipulate situations to make themselves appear indispensable, while simultaneously working behind the scenes to eliminate rivals or subvert authority. Their manipulative tactics often create a toxic work environment where trust is eroded and others are left confused or suspicious, but unable to pinpoint the source of the dysfunction. A psychopath's manipulative behavior also extends beyond interpersonal relationships to larger societal structures. They may manipulate public opinion, exploit systems for personal gain, or use their charm and deception to achieve positions of power. They understand the mechanics of influence, whether it's in social groups, politics, or media. Their ability to manipulate others through charm, lies, and deceit allows them to climb to positions of influence where they can then continue to use their manipulative tactics to further their own agendas, often at the expense of those around them. What makes manipulation particularly effective for a psychopath is their ability to remain calm, collected, and emotionally detached. They are not swayed by the emotions of others and do not feel the emotional weight that often comes with manipulating someone. This emotional detachment allows them to operate without hesitation or guilt, as they view others more as objects or pawns to be moved in their game. They are expert at reading and exploiting the emotional states of others, often creating confusion or doubt in their victims while maintaining a calm, composed exterior. This makes it difficult for others to identify that they are being manipulated because the psychopath's behavior often seems rational or reasonable, even when it is far from it. Over time, a psychopath's manipulative behavior can lead to severe emotional damage for those around them. Victims of manipulation often end up feeling confused, drained, and unable to trust their own judgment. The more the psychopath manipulates, the more they can control others and shape the environment to their benefit. They are rarely ever satisfied, as their need for power, control, and personal gain is insatiable. For the people caught in their web, it can feel like a never-ending cycle of manipulation and confusion, with no clear way to break free. The devastating impact of these manipulative behaviors can be seen in broken relationships, lost careers, and emotional trauma. In conclusion, a psychopath's manipulative behavior is a powerful and destructive force that can influence others without them even realizing it. Whether in personal relationships, the workplace, or larger societal contexts, manipulation serves as a primary tool in a psychopath's quest for power and control. Their ability to deceive, charm, and exploit others allows them to maintain dominance, leaving victims confused, hurt, and often unable to recognize the true source of their suffering. The quiet, insidious nature of manipulation is what makes it so dangerous, and it is one of the most effective ways a psychopath can continue to harm others without ever showing a sign of guilt or remorse.